Live on WFLA Now. Feel good and live your best life with Bloom Health Club. Here's Gail Guayardo.
In a world of information overload, many of us struggle with anxiety, depression, busy minds. We can't seem to slow it down, but we have help for you today. Joining me now is neurologist, board-certified physician, and the author of The Busy Brain Cure, a book that gives readers an 8-week plan to find focus, tame anxiety, and sleep again. Dr. Romie Mushtaq. Dr. Romie, thank you so much for joining us on the Bloom Health Club.
Oh, Gail, Brody, I am just full of joy to be here celebrating with you. And I'm looking at my sweet picture of my dog, Raja. Oh. Yes. Oh.
And we do want to bring in Brody Waddell. He is our digital reporter and producer of BloomTampaBay.com. And he's going to be jumping in with a lot of questions. And boy, are we overdue for a book like this. I mean, so many of us, our wheels are spinning. We don't feel well. We feel like bouts of anxiety, depression. We don't know what's going on. And you say it really boils down, Dr. Romie, to our brain health.
It boils down to having a busy brain. I mean, girl, right? If one more person tells you to eat berries and breathe, or watch this Instagram videos of puppies hugging babies for your anxiety, I think I would just pull my hair out, right? And as a brain doctor, I could feel the frustration. I work in corporate America, and people were like, whatever I'm doing for stress and anxiety is not working.
It's not working. And what's crazy about this is that you had to figure this out the hard way. It was your own health journey that took you away from clinical medicine. You were firing on all cylinders. You were living your dream of being a top neurologist. And then all of a sudden, as a doctor, you fell very ill. You almost died.
You know, Gail, it's humbling to be here with you today and share this. And I think people ask why I wrote the book, and they assume it's because I love research and I'm a brain doctor. But could I be honest with you? I remember those last moments in the hospital when I knew something was wrong with me. I felt so alone. I was in a dark space. And do you know, not a single colleague asked me if I was okay. They would talk to me about clinical cases and patients. And I knew they could see something was wrong. Maybe some of them didn't know how to ask. Some of them were gossiping because the nurses were telling me. And if anybody is listening or watching this right now, I just want you to know from Gail and Brody and I, you're not alone. And that's why we're here having this candid conversation. You know, chronic stress can lead to disease and it can kill you. And it almost killed me. And I'm a brain doctor and I should have known better. And in 2010, what I thought was just run-of-the-mill acid reflux from chronic stress, turns out I have achalasia. And by the time it was diagnosed, I was so sleep-deprived, so stressed all the time, so wired and tired and running on all cylinders. I had precancerous lesions and ended up in life-saving surgery.
Wow. That is incredible. So at that particular point, you pivot and you decide that, you know, with everything that you've learned as a doctor, you needed to learn more because your journey sparked you to want to help millions of others that follow you. And now you're out with your new book, The Busy Brain Cure.
You know, Gail, I wish it was that easy and in a talking point. You're a brilliant journalist and you do, but can I break it down and have some Dr. Romie real talk for our listeners?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You just don't figure it out alone and that quickly. Because I remember just laying in the hospital bed thinking, oh my God, nothing I've learned in medical school is going to help me now. And it was because one of my aunties handed me a cassette tape that had meditation on it. And I was like, what is this on this cassette tape? And I started to do it. And my post-operative chest pain, I didn't need the narcotic pain medications. I started to feel better. But you know that dark and lonely place I was telling you both about? It started to alleviate. And I was like, there's something out there that they aren't teaching in U.S. medical schools and in training. And it sent me on a global journey of initially what I thought was to heal myself. And now realizing, wait, there's other people that have symptoms. I know your story, Gail, right? And maybe I need to do the research and fast forward, and that's where we are. I feel like over the last 10 years, I went through my mess so I could help everyone heal theirs.
Yeah. Brody, I want to loop you into this. And I do want to share my own personal health journey because it is one that 1 in 8 women suffer from, and they suffer in silence and they don't get the help that they need. But back to the busy brain and the information overload. I mean, Brody, I love your perspective of this because you're much younger than me. I point that out again and again on the Bloom Health Club. But your exposure to information overload came at a much younger age than it did for me or Dr. Romie.
Right. You guys were probably already very fully grown when it came about.
That was a diplomatic way.
Yeah,
to
thank
say
you,
it.
Brody.
I'm your Dr. Auntie. Very, very good, Brody.
So what were some tips like? No, yes, I feel like it's been tremendously helpful that I was like young enough when like I got exposed to it to like kind of, like we were all kind of learning together. Like, and now we're at this point, like what it does to us and like how to handle it like in a healthy way. And and that's like by extension social media too. Like think about it, like people have always had that now, and they tend to have. They're like you say, they act like addicts about it. And we kind of like had that developmental stage to like not be there. So I've never really known not having all these options. Like, I like watching TV, playing video games, like email, phones, like music, stuff like that. Like I feel like you're right. Like your brain sort of adjusts to it, and then you never like ever stop moving.
Wait, Dr. Romie said it actually rewires our brains, right?
It rewires our brains. So first of all, I don't want to be that auntie, Brody. That's a killjoy and saying, no more TV, no more video games. Like I can hear my aunties. You hear all their stories in the book. I don't want to be that killjoy. But what I do want to say is there's a difference between saying, I'm going to go to class online or do some work. And the difference of when you have multiple screens open in front of you and multiple browser windows open in your brain, and you can't focus on a single task, like sending a thank you email to the both of you that should take 3 minutes is now taking 37 minutes, and I keep getting distracted, right? That's where our brains get rewired. And it's why when you're like, I know I need to focus on my sleep last night because I heard Dr. Romie hanging out with Brody and Gail today, and then you hear a ding on your phone, and you open it up and it's Instagram, and your ex just got tagged with their new lover, and now you're scrolling in 92 minutes. You don't understand why you're now your ex's new lover's hairdresser's Instagram feed, right? Yeah. That's where our brain gets rewired. It's like this dopamine hit from addiction, and you keep going, and then you try to put it down, and then you're like the drug addict and your high is over. So, let me look again.
Yeah. It's a slippery slope. And you actually have an 8-week plan. And it's like you said, we don't have to take any time off. We don't have to create. These are simple habits that we can start layering and layering and layering into our lives so that we can maybe reverse some of the damage from all of this. Like, I mean, there's statistics that show that we're so hungry for stimulation and information that we have to have 2 devices. Like I'm watching TV with my husband and I'm scrolling through my phone. It's like, and I'm not alone.
Yeah. I mean, that is unfortunately commonplace, right? But what I wanted to do was serve the people in the real world. In the opening part of the book, I wrote this book for you, the type A, unapologetic, success-driven professional. You and I, Gail and Brody, we don't have the luxury to slow down, We live in the real world. People pay mortgages. They have children to take care of, elderly relatives, whatever it is. So I needed to create a protocol that wasn't going to feel like it was going to interfere with your work. But do I get to tell you the best part?
Yes, please do.
There is no diet, no taste limiting, calorie limiting cleanse, right? Yes, you actually, this is the part that I think gets everyone's attention, especially because I'm on the Bloom Health Club. I actually prescribe eating comfort food.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah. What comfort food did you grow up with here, Gail?
I'm 100% Italian. So I grew up with a lot of pasta.
Oh, yum.
And I loved it.
See, and look at the smile on her face if you're watching the video.
Thinking about it.
She's thinking about it. Brody, how about you? What's your favorite comfort food?
It was like
now?
mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese,
fried stuff. It just always makes me happy.
Oh my God. Mine is my nani, my maternal grandmother's lamb biryani. Right? And so you think of this comfort foods that we have that are tied to our cultures or family or loved ones or childhood memories or religious holiday. Yet most of the diet plans rob us of that joy and the love. So I wanted people to cure busy brain and find joy and hope again. So we say once or twice a week, eat that comfort food. If it's your child's birthday party, please have a slice of cake or cupcake. Don't let your child look at you making a face like, I shouldn't be eating this on the keto or paleo diet, because now you're ruining their birthday and a memory.
True.
And so we actually, in this 8-week plan, give you little micro steps to shift out of that instead.
And you know what I love too about the plan is not only will you find actionable steps, but you'll also find valuable information, because I love the fact that you talk about blood work and the labs that we should be getting. Like you have some homework to take to your doctor.
You do. And I know people are like, oh, do I really have to go to the doctor, Dr. Romie? You start first by taking the Busy Brain test and you get your score. It's for free and so all of our social media, and we'll share the link in the podcast notes here. And you get a brain score. So if you have above 30, ooh, it's time. Your brain got rewired. You got busy brain. We have help. And you spend the first 4 weeks restoring your circadian rhythm, your sleep, your ability to wind down at night. And then, in the last 4 weeks, we give you a lab slip so that you go to your doctor. Because guess what? You know when your brain gets rewired like that airport traffic control center of the brain, it will mess up your hormones, your digestion. And if you don't fix that, you're not going to feel better. And so we give you a lab slip to take. And in the United States, because we've done this protocol with over 1,000 people, if you have traditional health insurance, all of these labs will be covered. We specifically designed it that way so that it could be affordable in the current U.S. healthcare system.
Which is so important. And I think too, where you're like, if you're listening or watching right now, you might think to yourself, well, why can't I just go to my regular doctor and have him do this? The problem is, and what I learned with dealing with thyroid hypothyroidism is that everything was looking relatively normal on the regular markers of a typical blood panel. But what Dr. Romie is saying is that you really need to broaden the scope of this, because if you really want to know what's going on with your health, and 1 in 8 women especially are walking around with, some kind of thyroid disease, and they don't even know what's making them feel depressed and sluggish and lack of focus and not able to sleep and anxious and self-doubting and all of these things. And you're walking around alone in this. The answers could be in your blood work.
Gail, thank you for so candidly sharing that about your hypothyroidism. I break down in this book and have that honest moment that, like, I never had a regular menstrual cycle in all of my teenage years and young adult life. And as I was doing my research for other women with epilepsy and brain health, I kept looking at this going, do I have thyroid? And I went to the doctor and they were like, you're fine. And I was like, I don't feel fine. And it wasn't until I saw an integrative medicine doctor, which is now what I am, that they diagnosed it and corrected my subclinical hypothyroid. I have Hashimoto's. And at 39 was the first time I had a regular period. And this is how I break it down for men and women, by the way, because men can have thyroid issues. It's like if you hear a funky noise in your engine, in your car, and the check engine light comes on, and you don't go to the dealership for your car, but you just go to the gas station, and they look in the glove compartment. And they say, Romie, you got some nasty old candy wrapper of chocolate in there. You're fine. It doesn't matter. Your check engine light, keep driving. That's what I feel like is happening when people have a busy brain and they're anxious and they can't focus and wondering if they have adult onset ADD and insomnia and they're starting to have physical symptoms, is somebody just looked in the glove compartment and they didn't address the check engine light.
Yeah, you got to get the check engine light looked at, because for me, I after just years and years and years of suffering, not being able to lose the weight, not able to find the focus, not feeling good about myself. I mean, like downright going to sleep at night in a dark place thinking, gosh, why am I even on this earth? Like you start to feel really hopeless in this journey. And
I've been there.
Yeah. And it's tough. And I know a lot of people listening have gone through this. And so if you go to a medical expert like yourself, you get for me, the answer was I needed my thyroid medication to be compounded. Now I know that's kind of controversial and not all doctors subscribe to that, but you say the science backs that could help. It's not every patient needs that.
Not everybody needs it. So this shouldn't be a mad rush to like going to Target to get the new pink or red Stanley cup that's sold out, right? But what happens for men and women, because both men and women can need compounded hormones, it's kind of like getting a specialized cocktail made just for you. And I think some of the doctors that I hear pushing back and saying, hormones don't work or compounded hormones don't work is there's enough medical literature. The same medical journals that you read to talk about the latest care in heart attack or stroke are the same ones that are now showing in the last decade the benefits of, number one, treating thyroid. And sometimes the traditional prescription thyroid medication, which is what you're alluding to, isn't enough. And you need a compounded, which is a personalized dosing of different types of thyroid. Same for estrogen, progesterone, or testosterone in men. And we need that. And to make a blanket statement like all hormones or compounded hormones are bad is misleading, and that's bad science. And, I've been researching the solution, one, for my own health since I ended up in life-saving surgery in 2010. But then since I started to hear men and women like the both of you, like I work in corporate America with other journalists, teachers, doctors, tech executives, airline pilots, and I was hearing the same symptoms that both of you are talking about. I've been researching it, and there's over 450 medical journal articles in the book and in the website. And part of it, we address the safety and the proper use of compounded hormones by the right specialist that has the training, Gail, right? That's the key. So again, when the check engine light comes on to your bougie foreign sports car, you just don't go down the road and pull into 7-Eleven or Wawa and ask the person that's making your coffee, because they got good cafe con leche at Wawa here in Florida, to say, hey, can you do the check engine light? I feel like that's what happens when you go to your primary care doctor going, can you look at my thyroid? Do you think I need estrogen, progesterone? Yeah.
And you don't get the answers that you need. I mean, this is something that you're looking into right now, aren't you, Brody?
Yeah, I actually just did one of those mail-in kits.
Okay.
For this place called Everly Well
Yes,
to do a mail panel.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm waiting on the results of those, but I'm very interested to see what the levels are for my
I
testosterone
really
and everything.
appreciate, I'm not here as a board certified doctor and in journalism and now a global chief wellness officer for Great Wolf Resorts. I'm not here to promote any one brand.
Yeah.
There are brands like Everwell and others, like Rupa Health that give access to the public, where a doctor who knows how to read the labs like myself. So it's not just you're sending in the kit and some machine is spitting out the answer. Right. There's a doctor in the lab who is trained like I am to look at your test results and see that, right? Yeah. So, I know we're live on the air and you can be like, Dr. Auntie, stop butting out. You're being nosy. But what led you to get these labs? I'm curious. That's
because you're young, Brody. How could your T levels possibly look?
I've never really had them checked. I wouldn't know.
Well, so I want to go ahead. I'm sorry. I want to address that.
I've had periods of time where I thought I actually had a relationship basically fall through because I think I had it just crashed.
So sorry,
I just totally lost even the interest in trying to pursue this woman.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I get it.
And everything else was great. And I was like, I do not understand what is going on.
I'm so glad you're sharing this, Brody. And I know it may not be easy, but so many people listening, because I work with men executives too, actually mostly men. And what's different in today's world is the chronic burnout and stress that you read about in Busy Brain affects the busy brain center, which is the control center for all of our hormones. In men, it can throw off your thyroid and adrenal, and that'll cause a testosterone to plummet. So you're not alone. I get male executives all the time that are in their late 20s, 30s, 40s that have a testosterone level of someone in their 80s. And by the way, just taking testosterone injections or a cream isn't going to help it. For all the men that are watching live right now or reading the book or listening to this on the podcast, you need to get your thyroid and adrenal levels checked as well.
And that's a blood test.
And these are all blood tests. Right. And most of these can be done in a doctor's office, maybe not the primary care doctor. So for men, it may be an endocrinologist or a urologist. And what I really, can I just get on my pedestal right now?
Please do, yeah.
You look at the data, when a man goes in and says something is off my hormones, the primary care doctor is likely to listen or send you to the urologist. Viagra is generic now. You're a woman and they're going to be like, you're just crazy. You're just anxious.
Just going through the change.
You're just going through the change. You're just a tired mom. You don't need your hormones checked, right?
Yes. I'm probably late to the party on this, but I literally just...
We're never too late.
Never too late.
We're never too late to a party.
But I literally about 4 to 6 months ago, max, I decided to look into this hormone replenishment.
Yeah.
And I was scared of the pellets. But I did go look at everything, and it's amazing, what they find and what they can, and the balancing of it and the changes in your body and the way you feel. I mean, there's something to taking this deep dive.
I'm going to use this analogy again. Brody, did you grow up with the flip phones as your first cell phone?
I
You
did,
remember
yeah.
that? Okay, good.
I had a
Because I was
Razor. It
like,
was
I
pretty
said
sweet.
cassette tape earlier, and
And
Brody
he
had this
didn't know
dazed
what
and
was going
confused look
on.
his eyes. Like, I don't know if I can sit through this interview with Dr.
Yeah.
Auntie. So flip phones, you remember, right?
Yeah.
When doctors are scared of hormone therapy, they're thinking of the flip phone version. Now we have these smartphones that could connect you around the world in an instant, right? That's what the modern day hormone replenishment therapy is. And there's so many options, compounded creams or pellets or injections. And you just have to go to a doctor and they have to figure out what's best for you, man or woman, based on your levels, based on your symptoms. And that's how that works. So you found something that is working for you, Gail.
Yeah, I found something that's not in a pellet form. And I know
Okay.
there's a lot of maybe doctors out there listening that say, oh, you'd be so much better off with the pellet. But
I think it's individualized.
Yeah, it's individualized.
It
And I
is.
was appreciative that I found, you know, a doctor that was willing to work with
Yeah,
me, you know,
same.
within those guidelines. And I do feel better. I mean, now the big thing is my husband's so scared of doing blood work. I can't get him to go in. But I think that like a lot
Have
of
him
times-
listen to Brody's
Yeah,
segment just
Brody.
now, and then
Yeah.
hand him chapter 16 in the Busy Brain Cure and have him take that lab slip in.
But can
Like,
you?
that's it.
But could you? But you're doing it with your saliva alone, right, Brody? I
Yeah,
mean,
it was just saliva, and it was like a surprising amount.
Is that going to
it
be
could
enough
detect.
information? Just saliva?
You know, Brody, if I had to be honest, and I hope the company that you're doing this with isn't going to like get upset with me, so I apologize. But like, listen, this is Dr. Romie Real Talk here.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good screening place, but like, you know, I got you. I'm your Dr. Auntie. Like, I'm going to give you this lab slip. Please go to your doctor and send me the labs, and I'll find you someone to take a look at it. Because when you get to this level, you actually do need a blood test. At least when I'm thinking about thyroid, adrenal, testosterone levels, there may be some things they can check in your saliva, but like cortisol or stress hormone levels. But honestly, a blood test is more
pretty much what
accurate
you
when
have to
we
do.
look at it clinically when I was researching the book. But it's a good place to start. Like for me, that was your most powerful brain shift. It was like taking one action, I'm going to get labs done.
Yeah.
And by you starting that, now me handing you this lab slip may not feel as intimidating, right? So I'm glad you started in that place.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Like,
Yeah.
I want to know. It's like good, like, because you just don't know. So many people just skate through life. They have no idea
No.
that anything could be off.
They
Yeah.
don't, and I think a lot of people, which why I admire you for this as well, Brody, is that a lot of people think they have youth on their side, and they don't really start taking these things seriously. But for so many reasons, whether you know you want to start a family or you want to set yourself up on a good trajectory. I mean, I'm just now figuring out things in my 50s. And I do feel a little bit late to the party, but the interesting thing about it is that I'm at the lowest weight level I've been at in a really long time. I've got
Longevity.
more focus that I've had in a really long time. So, you know,
Could I offer you this brain shift, Gail?
yes.
Like, could we both, you and I, let go that what if we had figured this out in our 30s and we let that go together as sisters, realizing, I mean, I'm so honored to be sitting here with you. We are both women that have shattered through glass ceilings individually in each of our career trajectories, right?
Right.
So we did what we were meant to do. And if we found it in our 50s, well, then maybe there's another sister listening right now, you know, that needs it. And Brody is talking, you know, at his young vantage point of doing it. And, you know, you're right, though, that like, I mean, I was not even 35 when I had my life-saving surgery. So stress can get you at any age. I take care of athletes and executives in every age group. But what I'll say is this is many times people are sent to me because they're not performing on the job. They thought, oh, this person could be promoted to middle management and a senior vice president and C-suite executive one day, and they don't have emotional control. They're not focusing well. They're blurting out in meetings. They're not getting along with colleagues. And all of a sudden you realize like they have a busy brain. They can't focus and they're getting anxious. And that's what's going on. And I do the lab panels and I look at, we've talked about thyroid in men, we've talked about adrenals and testosterone. What we haven't talked about in men and women is we call it the super hormone, the superhero of the brain, and that's vitamin D. And that one simple test can transform peak performance for athletes, professional athletes that I've worked with, for high achieving executives and doctors and lawyers. And then for those of us that are in the 50 plus club, like shining and radiating and saying, you know, we're redefining what it means and longevity and hormone health at both of our ages.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, and you'll realize this one day, Brody, like you get to this juncture of life and you really want to maximize every single moment of it with the best health that you could possibly have, because you realize that, your best years may not be ahead of you. So you better, grab, life by the horns and do it right, which was, I think, is so critical that your book, The Busy Brain Cure, is now out, and you're giving people a roadmap of how to get a handle on their health.
And from a young age. Because, I mean, look, Brody is facing this at a young age. And like I said, I was only 35 and faced my mortality. Life isn't guaranteed tomorrow, is it?
No.
And so I take this moment to pause and just give gratitude that I'm sitting here with both of you, literally on the day of the launch of this mission globally, to have this conversation that it just starts with healing a busy brain. And we call it the brainSHIFT protocol inside. Just take one micro habit that is just a shift in thinking or action, like going to get your labs done or putting the phone down before bedtime. And it can create this massive ripple effect in your brain and your body and your hormones. And I looked at the 8 steps that were most impactful, and that's what we researched.
Yeah. And Brody and I are still shivering a little bit about the thought of having to put our iPad or phones down.
No, I don't like that.
An hour, you say, Dr.
Okay, how
Romie?
about we start with 30 minutes? In chapter 9 of the book, you're going to read about the company. This company is a hotel management company. So hotels are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, just like the newsroom. And I asked all the leaders to do this 30 minutes and then increase it up to 60 minutes.
Okay.
And the half that did it in just 21 days, we reduced their anxiety levels and improved sleep better than had I given them Ambien or some other sleeping pill or Xanax. Nice. It was transformative. And that 21-day digital detox program is the most requested corporate wellness program that I run in corporate America. And it has now transformed corporate policies of people saying, you know what? As the manager, as the boss, I'm not going to be sending out an email CCing 17 people at 10:07 p.m. because then by 10:54 p.m., the other 16 people on the email are replying and one person's in bed going, God, I hate my boss. I'm going to quit tomorrow. Right?
Right.
Yeah. And we don't want to do that. So my solution is find something that keeps your senses engaged. Something else that you can keep busy with your sight, your sound, what you're touching, what you're smelling, what you're tasting. So I really need to step away from work with everything I do. So I leave all my dishes in the sink and I'm like washing my dishes late at night because if it's all greasy with like Indian auntie spices and oil, I'm not going to pick up my phone. And then my sweet dog Rajo that you see his pictures kind of going by here is he lines up at the door and knows he's getting an extra walk and stroll in the front yard at night. And that makes me put my phone down. And then you go to bed and we teach you how to do a brain dump. And that's literally all these thoughts that are in your brain today that we've all had here. You literally just write it down on a list. Like grab an old envelope. Don't type it out. Write it out. Good old. You got pen and paper in your house, Brody?
I have at least one. Maybe.
Okay,
Nope.
he's got pen and paper. He didn't know what cassettes was, but he's got pen and paper.
We just were allowed to order some office supplies. So if you need an extra pen or pencil, Brody, I got you.
Yep. All right, good. I might need a couple.
Dr. Romie, it is such an honor to have you as an official member of the Bloom Health Club. And if you are watching or listening, do not forget to get the Busy Brain Cure. The release is today.
Today, globally.
Is the day globally. So we're super excited.
6 languages.
This is the 8-week plan to find focus, tame anxiety, and sleep again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you both for this honest and authentic conversation. And for anybody else that's listening, I just want you to know your brain is not broken, your mind is not a mess, and hope did not depart your soul. Let's just brain shift.
Thank you so much. Till next time.